wooden sticks. So back in those days, even now, if you go to Katha, you'll probably see Sikhs fighting with wooden swords. So this is something that we should also look at our lives. How much do we train? How much do we exercise? How much do we spend on our body, making it stronger and everything, right? So back in those days, they spent almost all day learning Katha, doing Katha. So you can imagine their skill in war when they actually had to go in and fight the enemy. This is the chakdar. This is what they used to stop the arrows. So there's these things lined up, and then the enemies would be shooting arrows. They'd be blocking the arrows using the chakdar so that it wouldn't hit anyone. Right? That was the method behind that. So it's going to keep it a little bit light now. So as you can imagine, in today's world, what kids are doing. A lot of us are, on our iPhones or on our phones or tablets or whatever, right? So comparing ourselves, or kids today did, and then back then to what they did, how can we make those changes in our daily life to see what we can do in our life to be like them, right? They weren't superhuman. They didn't have superpowers like, they had they could fly or they could do anything else. They were normal like you guys, right? And they just got to that level by practicing on a daily basis. Whether it was through reading Gurbani, whether it was doing Simran, whether it was doing Katha, whatever it was. So they got to that level, right? So today, think about yourself and what you're doing as well, right? So let's now learn about our history. So we're going to go through this first battle of Bhai Khan with Bhai Daljeet Singh. And I'll play the audio for you guys and I'll try to see the questions.
गोविंद अपनी फौजां नु क्यों मरवाने आ चल तू ते मैं आपस
with Here, Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Bhai Khan were in a battle, and Bhai Khan said, why do you want to get your army killed, Gobind Singh? Why don't you just fight me one-on-one, and we'll just end it here, and we don't need to go through all of this, and people need to die and whatnot. Guru Gobind Singh Ji asked the Panch Pyare, he said, can I go and fight this guy and just finish him off? They gave him Agya, and he said to Bhai Khan, give your first attack, do your first attack. And Bhai Khan said, no, you should give your first attack because that's just how we work. So Guru Gobind Singh Ji said, if I kill you in the first attack, you're going to have regrets that you never got to shoot your arrow.
ये वार करन दी तमन्ना दिल च रह गई ते फिर की करेगा
ते फिर बचा अपने आप नू
लो दीना बेग साहब पैंडे खान दा तीर खालसा पंथ दी कमर तोड़न लई तैयार है
गुरु जी ने फिर निशाना लगाउन तो पहले वाहे गुरु जी ने कहा
So at this point, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, he prayed to Vaheguru Ji. He said, Vaheguru Ji, everyone is, you're inside everyone. And right now, Bhai Khan's Hankar is in front of everyone. He's come here to torture all the Sikhs and all the innocent people. So this arrow is where you will fit. Bhai Khan was dressed in full armor. He had nowhere they can penetrate his body. But Guru Sahib, all knowing where the weak points are, shot the arrow right in his ear. Right? So this was the battle that happened before Anandpur Sahib main battle. Guru Sahib fought many battles like this one, from between 1700 to 1704, a little moment back to Anandpur Sahib. So what was actually happening in Anandpur Sahib? People from Punjab, all over Punjab were coming to Anandpur Sahib to take Amrit, to become part of the Khalsa family, to become part of the army, to fight the oppressors. So during these battles, Guru Gobind Singh Ji never took a piece of land from anyone, right? He only fought for injustice that was happening, right? So at that time, as you can see, there was a good environment, happy environment. They were living peacefully. People were coming from all over Punjab, and they were learning scriptures. They were just, enjoying life. We live in a happy
श्री
family.
अनंदपुर साहब ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ ਠਾਠਾਂ ਮਾਰਦਾ ਸਤਲੁਜ ਦਾ ਦਰਿਆ, ਦੂਜੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਅਸਮਾਨੀ ਰੰਗ ਵਿੱਚ ਘੁਲਿਆ ਸਿਰਸਾ ਨਦੀ ਦਾ ਪਾਣੀ, ਰੰਗ ਬਿਰੰਗੀ ਹਰੀ ਭਰੀ ਵਾਦੀ ਦੀ ਬੁੱਕਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਚਾਰੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦੇ ਹੱਸੇ ਖੇਡੇ ਤੇ ਮੁਸਕਰਾਏ। ਉਹ ਨਗਾਰੇ ਦੀ ਚੋਟ ਨਾਲ ਖੁੱਲੀ ਹਵਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਉੱਡਦੇ ਤੇ ਲੋਕੀ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹਿ ਜਾਂਦੇ।
उस्ताद जी।
अच्छा मेहर सिंह जी,
तू अपने आप इन्ने को सीख लेने कि मेरा वार रोकन दे काबिल हो गए। मैदान जंग में जिन्ना जरूरी होंदा है दुश्मन नू हराना, उस तो कितने वध होंदा है अपने आप नू बचाना। ते इसलिए अपने बचाओ पक्ष नू कदी भी कमजोर ना होन दियो।
Alright, so let's move on to the next slide, which is the forts of Anandpur Sahib. So this is a picture that's taken from the 1900s, early 1900s. As you can see, Kesgar Sahib is the main fort where they used to live. They used to hold Sangat there. Logar Sahib is the fort that was the second strongest killa after Anandpur Sahib. It was on the south side, and they set up a factory. Guru Sahib set up a factory of manufacturing arms. So he used to create arrows, he used to guns in that fort. The Agamgarh fort, or the Holgar Sahib, was a killa where Guru Gobind Singh Ji introduced in 1701. This was in celebration of Hola Mahalla. You guys know Hola Mahalla? That happens in India with all the horses. They ride on the horses, they stand on the horses, right? Yeah, so that's where it started. And Anandgarh is from one of the killas built by Guru Gobind Singh Ji for the protection of Singhs from hill rulers. So as you know, Guru Sahib had a lot of enemies. He had enemies from the hillside, the hill Rajas. He had enemies, the Mughal Empire was the entire Mughal Empire was the enemy. So he had to build these forts strategically so that he can fight these enemies based on where they came from. Taragarh is also another one. It's situated on the outskirts of Anandpur Sahib. It's 5 kilometers from Anandpur Sahib, and it was basically stop the advance of the army. So it's like an outpost, right? So before someone's house or someone's castle, they had an outpost to see if the enemies are coming and how far they are, so they can alert everyone. So the Mughal emperor, he ordered the rulers of Sikhan, Lahore and Kashmir, to assemble all the armies against Guru Sahib. So Mughal forces, they joined up and they got together and they said, how can we attack Guru Sahib? Right? They made a big scheme on which cannons to bring, which guns to bring. They brought the Mohammedans, which were the gunners. So they had the gunners there, they had the archers, they had horsemen, they had infantry. So they had all of these different battle groups, and they were trying to figure out how we can attack them. So they joined forces with Wazir Khan, and they launched a full-out attack on Anandpur Sahib. This was the Battle of Anandpur Sahib. So as I mentioned with the Mohammedans, they were the Mohammedan gunners. They were promised a large reward if they killed Guru Gobind Singh Ji, right? But they were unsuccessful in their mission because their gunfire was either going too high or it was either going too low. Guru Sahib had these powers. So a lot of the soldiers, they thought that he was miraculous, he had all these powers, but some of them, they didn't believe that, so they were still trying to get to him as if he was a normal human being. Well, he was not. So they tried every day. The Allied forces would come, they would attack with their guns or their cannons, but they would fail, right? They tried then hand-to-hand fighting. So they said, okay, let's see, if the guns are failing, why don't we just try to climb the castle, right? Why don't we just put a ladder up and see if we can get up there? But the fort was so heavily guarded, the Singhs knew every corner of that fort. So whenever someone was trying to get up the fort, they would just kill them right away. So they brought their strongest cannons, and what started happening was the enemy started getting weaker and weaker. As you can see in this picture, what they did was they surrounded the fort. They had 10 to 15 times the men or the Singhs that were in the fort. So you can imagine this, if someone surrounds your house, for example, if someone surrounds a fort, how can they get inside? How can they get outside even, right? So all the supplies that were getting in, they were getting blocked. Water, food, everything that was going inside the castle, that was getting blocked. It went on for 8 months, right? You can imagine how long that is. And so eventually, this went on for day on. Every single day, they would try to attack and they would fail, come back with a bigger army, try to attack and they would fail. So the Singhs, they devised a plan. They had 2 main guns, which was, the name was Vijay Ghosh and Bagan, right? Those were the 2 main cannons they put into position. What they decided to do was they decided to blow the big tents of the generals. So if the general's tents is gone, then it's easier for them to kill the infantry. Okay, so let me talk about the Jali as well. So what was happening at that time was supply was short, right? And they tried many tactics. They tried saying, we'll give you food, we'll give you water. They tried to bribe other Singhs and whatnot. So 40 of the Singhs, there were actually 100 Singhs that wanted to leave the castle. At that time, Guru Sahib said, you write a letter for me, and that letter is going to be, it's called a Vidava, right? And that letter was saying that you're no longer my Sikh, and I'm no longer your Guru. They wrote that in the letter. And they said, whoever signs this can go, no problem. And 40 of the 100 Singhs, they actually put their thumb on the paper, and they evacuated Anandpur Sahib fort.
ਜੇਕਰ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਅੱਜ ਤੋਂ ਖੁਦ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੰਘ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਹਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਬਾਹਰ ਜਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ।
सौ सिंह छड़ के जाना चाहते सी पर सिर्फ 40 ही गए। बाकियों की जमीर ने आज्ञा न दी।
सिपे सलाह और सिंह जा रहे ने। रुक जा, लगता है डर के भज रहे ने। जान दे इन्हां नूं। सही सोचे है जनाब। इस तो पहला साडियां फौजां घेरा तोड़ दे, बस इसे तरह किला खाली हो जाए।
So at that time, as you know, the supply was short, and the enemy knew this, right? So they came to Guru Sahib with their Hindu priest as well as a Muslim priest, saying that first they actually had a caravan saying that let go of the caravan, let's see what happens, and they deceived Guru Sahib and they attacked the caravan. After that, Guru Sahib said, we don't trust you guys. They came back and they said, now we swear, like we would swear on Guru Sahib, on Gurbani or Gutka, saying, no, we'll swear on Gurbani, we'll swear on Gutka Sahib, yeah, we're not going to attack you. That's exactly what they did. So Guru Sahib, all knowing, he wasn't approving this, but all the Singhs, they forced him, and eventually they left the Anandpur Sahib fort. At this time, what was happening is Bhai Daljeet Singh and Bhai Dharam Singh were leading the separation or the group. After that was within that group was Mata Gujjar Kaur Ji and Mata Sahibzade, and behind them were Guru Gobind Singh Ji and the Bhai Daljeet Singh and Bhai CHAAR Singh to protect them from the back. So as soon as they saw all the Singhs leaving Anandpur Sahib, it was a stormy night, and one of the Bhai Daljeet Singh saw that the Mughals are now attacking from behind. Bhai Daljeet Singh and Bhai CHAAR Singh, they stood back. They tried to fight the enemy off. It was like a small gully, it was like a mountain, and they had to get through that. You guys remember the movie 300? I don't know if you guys seen the movie 300, but basically it was 300 men trying to block the enemy within a specific space. So they fought them off as much as possible so that Mataji and all the other Sangat can cross the river and move on and go to the other side of the river. So while fighting, Guru Sahib, along with all the Gursikhs, they reached the banks of the Sarsa River. It was a really stormy night. Very big storm was happening along that time, and that caused a flood in the river. So the water level started coming up, right? So they got separated at that river. All like on the map I showed you guys. Guru Sahib went one way, the CHAAR Sahibzade went another way with Mata Gujjar Kaur Ji, and the rest of the Sangat went another way. At this time, Guru Sahib's old servant, his name was Gangu, right? He said to Mataji and the CHAAR Sahibzade, why don't you come to my house, right? He said, I'll take you, I'll give you food, I'll give you shelter, I'll save you from the bad guys. He was a cook, right? He used to make food for all the Singhs and Guru Gobind Singh Ji and everyone. So they trusted him. They went to his house, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Bhai Daljeet Singh Ji, Bhai Daljeet Singh Ji went another way to Jamprod the Gadi, right? So that's the next battle is going to happen at Jamprod Sahib. During this time as well, Guru Sahib never gave up his nickname. They actually had to, they took a dera, they made a group, and they sang CHAAR SAHIBZAADE Kirtan there. So Gangu, he took Mataji and the CHAAR Sahibzade through Sarhand or Sahedi, and then all the way to Sarhand. So this is the Battle of Jamprod. This is where the Shahidi of Bhai Daljeet Singh Ji and Bhai CHAAR Singh Ji happens.
ते शिवा पर मोहे है शुभ कर मनते कभू न डरूं, न डरूं और सो जब जाए लड़ूं, निश्चय कर अपनी जीत करूं।
Seeing this, Baba CHAAR Sahibzade requested Guru Gobind Singh Ji, that's my turn now, right? You can imagine the age of Baba CHAAR Sahibzade and seeing his older brother going into the battlefield and then requesting Guru Sahib that now I want to die, right? Look at the courage they had at that time. So we're going to show Baba CHAAR Sahibzade's battle.
ਦੁੱਧ ਦੰਦੀਆਂ ਹਾਲੇ ਟੁੱਟੀਆਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਤੇ ਸੂਰਮਿਆਂ ਨਾਲ ਲੜਨ ਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ।
ਕਈਆਂ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿਕਾਰ ਤਾਂ ਕਰ ਚੁੱਕਿਆ ਤੇ 20 ਦਾ ਹੱਲੇ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਾਂਗਾ।
ਓਏ ਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਪੁੱਤਰਾ ਬਸ ਤੂੰ ਤਾਂ ਵੀ ਕਹੀ ਸੀ।
चलो
Bole so nihal. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Mata Paaka, right? Mata Paaka, for all the girls in this story, you also have a part, right? Mata Paaka played an important part in that time. When the 40 Singhs, they left Guru Sahib in the fort. They said, we're not your Sikhs, you're not our Guru, we're going home. Mata Paaka, she was the only one that said, you come home, you cook and clean, let me give me your shastra, I'm gonna go and fight, right? So the bravery she had as a girl, as a female at that time, you girls should know that, you know, you're part of, like, that royal blood is also running inside you too, right? So she fought for that injustice that was happening. She had love for Guru Sahib, that much love she had, that she was willing to give her family up and go and fight the Mughals at that time. So she took the 40 Jali Mukti and she said, let's go. We got to go back to the fort. We got to fight because Guru Sahib's there in the fort. We can't just leave him, right? So she played a really important part. I don't want to get too much into it just because of time. So we're going to talk about Baba Zorawar Singh and Baba Fateh Singh now. So Baba Zorawar Singh, Baba Fateh Singh, they went to Gangu's house, right? Remember when he took them in? He said, oh, I'll give you food, I'll give you shelter. What he started to do was, he started to do bad things. He stole their money while they were sleeping. Mataji saw, she didn't say anything because, you know, she knew the character of him. And she knew that she was in a bad position where, you know, she was vulnerable. She had to do this for the kids, for Babaji, Baba Zorawar Singh, Baba Fateh Singh, to protect them. He got upset. He took all the money that Mataji had, that the Chote Sahibzade had. And then the next day, what he did was he went to the Wazir, and he actually told them that, hey, the Chote Sahibzade, they're actually in my house. Do you want to capture them? You can take them. You just got to give me money. See, so this was the deceit that he did against Guru Sahib, against the family, even though Guru Sahib paid him to be a cook in the house. They paid him for all these years, and this is how he deceived them, right? So Mataji and the Chote Sahibzade were taken to the Thanda Burj, the cold tower. The cold tower, why it's called that is it's open from above. So all the air, the cold air flows. And this December time, you can imagine being in that open environment, you know. When we're at home, we got furnaces. We got furnaces running all the time to keep us warm. But they're in that cold tower where there's no furnace, no heat, no fire. And all the same clothes that they had from, you know, days ago. You can imagine what they were going through, right? And so they went, just for the sake of time, they took Mataji and the Chote Sahibzade to the Thanda Burj. And I'm gonna play this. This has got English voiceover. And then after this, we're almost
Your
done.
Majesty, the soldiers are bringing the Sahibzade to you. As they enter, our soldiers will bow their head, and the Sahibzade will also bow their head in front of you. Your Majesty, the sons of Guru Gobind Singh will be at your feet.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕਿਹਾ?
ਉਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਆ ਕੇ ਤਾਂ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਸਲਾਮ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ।
ਬਈ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਬੜੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਭੁੱਲ ਹੋਈ ਆ।
This is the court of the ruler of Sarhand, Wazir Khan. No one can come in this court and say Gur Fateh.
Come on, children. Apologize to your majesty and bow your head and say salam.
We only believe in Vaheguruji, and we only bow our heads in front of those who are Vaheguruji's kind and pure soul. We don't bow our heads to anyone else.
Oh, children, now you can stay with us. I promise I will get you the best toys. You can play all day, ride horses, do whatever you want. And plus, where will you go now? Since you don't know, I will tell you that your two other brothers have already been killed on the battlefield.
We don't trust you one bit. You locked us away in the cold tower without any crime.
Khan Sahib is telling the truth. You should give up your Sakhi and become Muslims. Otherwise, you'll die like your brothers.
Our Guru has taught us not to be afraid of death, so don't threaten us with dying.
Oh, children, you will get anything you want. Nice big houses, servants to bring you sweets, and delicious food whenever you want. All the things you can play with. If I forgot to add anything, you can just remind me.
I'll remind you what my grandfather, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, said to the Kashmiri Pandits, who were being forced to become Muslim. He said to them, if I convert to Islam, you should all convert to Islam as well. But instead, he died saving those Kashmiri Pandits. You are telling his grandchildren to change their religion now? Think about it.
I've heard enough. Go talk to your grandmother now on what you want to do. You have one day to think about it. You have one day to decide.
ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਉਹ ਇਹ ਤਾਂ ਵੱਡਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਚੁੱਪ ਕਰਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਇਹ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਅਫਲਾਤੂਨ।
So, my beloved children, tell me what happened today.
Daddy Ji, we told Wazir Khan that we remembered what Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji taught us. They were trying to bribe us to saying they will give us anything we want. When that didn't work, they started scaring us, but we never gave up.
So, what have you decided?
You think you're so big and strong, but you're picking on kids like us. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Aren't you scared of dying?
Aren't you scared of God?
Watch your tongue, young man.
We are the sons of the great king, Guru Gobind Singh Ji.
Singh?
A person who does the right thing is called Singh. Someone who protects the weak and poor is a Singh. Someone who lifts others up is a Singh. Someone who's willing to give up his life for justice is a Singh.
Now, everyone needs to tell me what we need to do with them.
Khan Sahib, now everyone should have the same thought that the children of snakes are snakes.
Satyanand, shut your mouth. Bow down and apologize for what you said. Otherwise, there will come a day when you will pay for your sins.
Be glad because we are your prisoners. Otherwise, I swear to Guruji, by now I would have cut your head.
Enough! I don't want to hear anything else. Give up your religion and become a Muslim or face death.
पहला मरण कबूल जीवन की छड़ आस हो सबना की रहने का तो आओ हमारे पास.
Ghazi Sahib, prepare the sentence. The sentence is ready, Khan Sahib. They should be bricked alive.
या अल्लाह, इस हुकूमत को कहर तो बचा.
माता जी बस बस हो रोके नहीं, चलो साडे नाल.
ਕਾਜ਼ੀ ਨੇ ਫਤਵਾ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਕਿ ਕੱਲ ਦੋਹਾਂ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਿੰਦਾ ਦੀਵਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਿਣ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ.
ਚੱਲਾ ਦੋ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੀਵਾਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਚਿਣਨਾ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ.
एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निरपौ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद सच जुगाड़ संजोग विजोग दुर्गा चलावे लिखे आवे भाग आदेश दिसे आदेश आद अनील अनाद अनाद जुग जुग एक होए एका माई जुगत वे आई
ਜੀ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਏ ਸੀ ਪਰ ਦਾਦਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਣ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ.
जिव तिस पावे तिवै चलावे जिव होवे फरमान पवन गुरु पाणी पिता माता तंत्र महत दिवस रात गाए गाए खेले सकल जगत
सोच लवो, हाले भी बहुत कुछ हो सकता है.
चंगियाइया बुराइया वाचा तरह दूर करनी आपो अपनी के नेड़े के दूर जिनी नाम ते आया गए सकत काल नानक ते मुख उछले केती छुटी नाल.
So we should feel proud of our history, what we have this treasure, right? And we should learn about our history as much as possible. So I'm really thankful to all the parents that brought their kids today. And all the kids, you guys came out, you sat, and you listened so peacefully. Thank you so much for coming. And, you know, hopefully you guys learned something here. And hopefully you guys can take some of these principles, some of these teachings in your day-to-day life. Do a little bit more part. Do maybe 2 more partying of Japji Sahib. Do 5 minutes more Simran, right? This is something you can do on a daily basis. Come early to Sangat, come early to Simran, listen to Simran, right? So these are some of the things that you can do. Other things you can do is do seva, right? You can respect your brothers and sisters, respect your parents, become a good Sikh, become a good human being. Stand up for what's right. What's happening in your school? Is someone getting bullied that you know about, that you want to share? You should tell others. You should maybe stand up for their rights as well, right? Tell your teacher, tell your parents. Talk openly about any issues that you might have. This is all things that you can do on a daily basis. So, and if you have any questions, you can either ask me or you can go to the website torontosunday.com. I'll put this on there as well, and you can download it from there. Thank you guys. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.